제니야, 커피 안 마시지? 응. 응? 내 커피는? 응? 커피 안 마신다고 하지 않았어? 아, 커피 마실래. 나 오늘 좀 피곤해. Did you notice what went wrong with the conversation? Jenny is actually my friend from the US who has been living in Korea for a few years and she speaks Korean quite well. But she told me that choosing yes or no in Korean is still very confusing. And after that incident, and from my experience of teaching Korean for over 10 years, I put together 3 common mistakes people make while learning and speaking Korean. 1번. So my friend Jenny can get around easily in Korea and she speaks Korean pretty well, but yes or no was still confusing. And not only Jenny, when I also teach English to Korean students, they also find it confusing. It's because the way we choose yes or no is different in 2 languages. For example, in English, you only follow your answer, right? So if you want it, yes. If you don't want it, no, always. But in Korean, you would follow the question. So depending on the question, how it's asked, your yes or no may change. So, for example, from the conversation above, I asked Jenny, 안 마시지? Because she usually brings her own healthy drink. So I asked her, 커피 안 마시지? And she said, 응. Which is agreeing to the question 안 마셔, not drink, agree. So it means you don't want coffee. So I didn't bring her coffee and she asked me, oh, where's my coffee, right? So in this situation, you should say 아니 마셔. 아니, no, disagreeing to the question 안 마셔, right? And same way with if I ask her, do you want coffee? 커피 마셔? 커피 마셔? 응 means you're agreeing to saying 마셔. So yes, you want coffee. And if I say 아니, it means no. 커피 마셔? 마셔? No, 안 마셔. Right? So it always depends on the question in Korean. So you need to listen carefully of how your friend asks the question. 마셔? 안 마셔? Okay? 2번. Which one do you think is correct? Many Korean verbs are made of noun and verb 하다, to do. 공부하다, 노래하다, 운전하다, 운동하다. And many of those, when you want to say you don't do those things, like I don't do certain things, it's 안 하다. Because 안 하다 means don't. So, 운전 안 해. 공부 안 해. 운동 안 해. But oftentimes, I hear people saying 안 공부해. 안 운동해. Because when you memorize the verbs, 운동하다, 공부하다, that's the whole verb, right? But in that situation, you put 안 in between noun and the verb 하다. So 안 하다. Okay, so just remember 안 하다. Also, a little side note here. When you want to say you can't do something, like 못하다, can't is 못하다, it works the same way with 안 하다. So it also goes in between noun and the verb. So 운전 못해, 공부 못해, 노래 못해. But a little funny thing is, if you say 나 공부 못해, it's interpreted in Korean as you're not good at something. So when you say 나 공부 못해, most Korean people will interpret it as I don't get good grades. I'm not good at studying because 못해 often indicates that you're not good at something. So 나 공부 못해, I don't get good grades. So it's usually not saying that you're in a situation where you can't study, maybe because it's too loud or something. So 못해 often means you're not good at. 3번. What you learned in your Korean textbook as pronouns are probably and this one can be a little stressful and a relief at the same time. When you learn to make a sentence in Korean from your textbook, you probably learned 당신, you, he, 그, 그녀, she, 그들, they, right? Although these are correct words, these are rarely used in conversations. Sometimes in writing they can be used, but in conversation almost never. Because in Korean, you don't always need a pronoun or subject to make a full sentence. So for example, when you're having a conversation with your friend and you mention the subject the first few times, so both of you know you're aware of the topic of the conversation, then after that you can omit the subject and just start saying whatever else you want to say. So I'll give you a little better example to help you understand. 어제 내 동생 결혼했어. 진짜? 사진 있어? 보여줘. 우와, 너무 예쁘다. 진짜 예뻐. So instead of saying 그녀는 너무 예쁘다, she's so pretty, you can simply say so pretty, 너무 예쁘다, 아주 예쁘다. And this next one is more like a tip to sound more like a native Korean. Please say this like you would say to your teacher. When you see this 안녕하세요 and say 안녕하세요, you can probably notice that when your Korean friends say it, it sounds a little different, right? Actually, it's 5 syllables, but it becomes more like 4 syllables. Because often we say 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요. So 안녕하 is all combined, like 안녕, 안녕, right? 안녕. And notice you rarely hear or you hardly hear the ha H sound, he sound, right? So 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요. Also, if you notice the last syllable, you, maybe because it takes more effort to say you, often people say yo instead of you. 안녕하세요, 고마워요, 미안해요. So even in text, some people write yo instead of you. Of course, it's not correct spelling, but that's how much it sounds like yo more than you. So in formal sentences, it often ends with you, right? But when you're speaking, you can just simply say yo instead of you to sound more like Korean. And now read this. This time, you hear all 5 syllables 감사합니다. But this time you need to pay attention to the hap. Hap. As you learned in 한글, 비읍 받침 is usually the P sound, hap, right? And when it's written alone or with other letters, it sounds hap. But when it's 합니다, 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 you notice how hap is changed into 합니다, 합니다. Because it's not 감사합니다, like you're rapping or something. 감사합니다, 감사합니다, 감사합니다. To make it sound a little softer and easier to say, you would change that hap to more like 미음, like M 받침. So 감사합니다, 합니다. Again, not only 감사합니다, but all the other 합니다s too. 합니다, 공부합니다, 노래합니다, 감사합니다, 죄송합니다. All 합니다s actually you would pronounce with 미음, 합니다, 합니다, 합니다. Okay? I hope this video had helped you avoid making these common mistakes while speaking Korean. And of course, there are more things to keep in mind. And I have over 10 years of experience teaching Korean to hundreds of students from all around the world. So I have good understanding of what kind of things most Korean learners struggle with and know easy and effective ways to learn Korean. So if you want more tips like this and learn more real expressions in Korean away from your textbooks, hit the subscribe and like button for future videos. Also, if you have any questions or if there's any subject or content that you'd like to see, please leave them in the comments below. Until next time, 다음에 봐요. 안녕.